You've probably seen this all over your social media feeds, right? People posting these pictures of just steak and butter and eggs, and they're claiming they have never felt better in their lives. No veggies, no fruit, not even a little bit of bread. It just seems to go against everything we've been told, but the trend is undeniable. So let's get into it and figure out what's really going on here.
Yeah, it is so easy to just dismiss this as another crazy, extreme fad diet. But what if there's something more going on? What if we've been missing the point? We're going to break down exactly how an all-meat diet actually affects your body and maybe get to the bottom of why it's causing such a stir.
Okay, so first things first, what are the actual rules here? Let's cut through all the noise online and just get down to the basic definition of what it really means to eat this way.
Now, what's so wild about this is that it's not just another low-carb diet like keto. The whole point isn't about counting your carbs or your fat. The core principle, the number one rule, is the total elimination of anything that comes from a plant. Period.
And this really spells it out, doesn't it? I mean, look how strict this is. Your entire plate is made up of meat, fish, eggs, maybe a little bit of dairy if you tolerate it, and everything else. I mean, everything, fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, seeds, it's all completely gone. And that stark contrast is what drives everything we're about to talk about.
So what is actually going on inside your body when you make a change this big? Let's look at the biology, because you're literally flipping a switch on how your body gets its energy.
Okay, so most of us, most of the time, are running on glucose. We get that from carbs, from plants. And that's what causes those energy spikes and crashes we all know so well. Think about that 3 p.m. slump at your desk. Well, when you take away all the carbs, you force your body to find a totally new fuel source. It starts turning fat into these things called ketones, which, it turns out, provide this incredibly steady, stable energy.
And this kicks off a fascinating domino effect inside you. First, with no carbs coming in, your blood sugar, your glucose, just drops. Your liver sees this and goes, okay, time for plan B, and it starts pumping out ketones made from fat. And with no sugar rush to deal with, your insulin levels completely stabilize. And that leads to your appetite hormones getting back in check, which is why so many people on this diet say they just stop feeling hungry all the time.
This quote just perfectly captures that feeling. Your body isn't riding a glucose roller coaster anymore. You get off those crazy ups and downs. Instead, your body is just humming along on this really consistent fuel. And that feeling of stable energy, that's one of the biggest benefits people talk about.
Now, this brings us to what might be the most important idea in this whole explainer. The real magic of the carnivore diet might not have anything to do with what people are adding to their plate, but what they're taking off of it.
So get this is the big twist. The benefits that people report might not be coming from the meat itself. It might be coming from the complete and total absence of everything else. And that is a huge reframing of how we think this diet actually works.
Just think about it for a second. When you eliminate every single plant, you're not just getting rid of carbs. You are simultaneously removing this huge list of things that, for some people, can be major irritants. We're talking about natural plant compounds like lectins and oxalates, but also all the modern stuff like processed seed oils and added sugars. Everything gone in one move.
I love this analogy. It explains it so well. For somebody who's been dealing with chronic health issues for years, the diet basically acts like a diagnostic tool. You remove every single possible trigger, creating this totally clean slate. And then, from there, you can start to reintroduce foods one by one to figure out what was actually causing the problem all along.
Which, of course, brings us to the real-world experience. Because this diet affects different people in dramatically different ways. This is definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
You really see this clear divide. On one side, you have the winners. These are often people with really severe autoimmune conditions or terrible gut issues who say this diet has been completely life-changing. But then you have the losers, who are often people who are already pretty healthy to begin with, and they just end up feeling worse, constipated, low energy, and, they just miss eating vegetables.
And this is a really key takeaway here. The folks who are recording these incredible benefits, they're usually not just trying to lose 5 pounds. A lot of them are people who are at the absolute end of their rope. They've tried everything, and they're willing to do something this extreme just to get some relief.
Okay, so this all sounds really promising for a specific group of people, but we have to talk about the elephant in the room. What about the long term? I mean, what happens after years of this? This is where things get very, very uncertain.
That's the number, 0. As of right now, there are 0, none,
long-term, large-scale scientific studies on the modern carnivore diet. We just don't have the data to know what happens to your body after 10 or 20 years of eating only meat.
Now, you'll often hear people bring up traditional populations like the Inuit, but honestly, that comparison is pretty flawed. They ate the entire animal. We're talking organs, cartilage, everything. Plus, they had thousands of years of genetic adaptation on their side. The modern version, where people are just eating ribeyes from the supermarket, that's a completely different biological experiment.
So, after all of this, what's the right way to think about this diet? Well, the most balanced and, frankly, the most useful perspective seems to be viewing it not as some new lifestyle religion, but as a potential short-term tool. In fact, many functional medicine practitioners who use this with their patients recommend a very specific time frame, somewhere between 30 and 90 days. The idea is to use it for a very specific purpose, like an elimination protocol, not as your forever diet.
And this final analogy just nails it. Think of it like a circuit breaker in your house. When something's wrong, you shut the whole system down. Then you carefully flip the switches back on, one by one, until you find the one that's causing the problem. That is the most powerful way to view this diet, as a diagnostic tool.
So really, the ultimate goal for most people shouldn't be to live on meat forever. It's to use that short period of total elimination to learn about your own body and then use that knowledge to build a broader, more sustainable and personalized diet that actually works for you.
Which brings us all the way back to our big question. When we see those incredible success stories online, are we looking at a powerful, genuine biological response to removing inflammatory foods? Or are we just watching the peak of another extreme diet trend before it fades away? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and it's almost certainly different for every single person.